decided to venture into business buying, and he has been very successful doing this, and recently just left his W2 job. So hi Benjamin, how are you?
Hey, Chinky, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Awesome, awesome. So I know we came from the same background. We were from Taiwan originally, and it's great to always talk about home, talk about food, talk about where we came from. But we've been staying in the United States for quite some time now, right? So tell our audience a little bit about you, who you are, and what's your background.
My name is Benjamin Huang, and I came from Taiwan when I was 17 years old. I've spent more than a decade. I've spent more times in United States than me staying in Taiwan. United States is kind of where I kind of grew and developed throughout my whole career. Initially, I was professional trained engineer, and then I dive into science, and then I was dealing with last pandemic Ebola virus, getting into like medical biomedical area. But there was a point that made me feel like, okay, if I keep doing the science, I'm going to be always on the wrong side of the table, and that actually moved me to business world. And that's where I started to look into like real estate, buying rental properties. Started with one co-living property, and then multifamilies, and then large apartment complex. And then in the recent years, I realized the multifamily market hasn't been very stable in terms of debt versus value of the asset. So I pivoted into business buying. I study for about 2 years before I dive into business buying or business acquisition. Early last year, I acquired three businesses with no money down and no money in, even all within 1 month.
Wow, 2 years of learning journey. That was really like a short learning curve for you. It must be really smart. Do you have any mentor, or when you talk about self learning, and can you kind of tell us about like what has been helpful for you resource wise or education wise?
Basically, I believe that information is everywhere. So now learning is just it just has never been this easy. Initially, when I studied business acquisitions, I came into it from two angles, from YouTube videos from Cody Sanchez. And she's amazing. If you have not read her stuff, you should. If you're wondering why you should be buying businesses, you can also watch her stuff. She will give you like motivations and understanding the purpose of it and whatnot. The other angle that I came into the space was me really starting into so-called like M&A, like merger and acquisition. Throughout my career, there was a point that I was able to work with some great company like McKinsey and companies and other consulting company. And there was actually a couple of projects that we were helping startup company to scale. And one company I was able to help them scale like 2.7x. The other company I was able to grow them from 200 something thousand to 11 millions revenue a year. So that is something that I'm trying to link together. So business acquisition is one, but what we can do in terms of helping the business scale is the second. So right now I am formulating my own philosophy and my own structural frameworks to look at business acquisitions and basically business scaling. So that's kind of my focus right now.
I see. And when you talk about you help them grow, like more, is that because I'm still such a newbie in the business buying world? Is that equivalent to what people always call like equity multiple? Basically, how much money they come in and grow, how many?
So I think you're referring to like the equity multiply. Basically, you see how much they're doing every year in terms of cash flow or net profit, and you basically apply a multiple to it. And that essentially, well, is the typical way people evaluate how business worth.
That's a good
Um,
question. So when like business valuation, right? I know multifamily we use like cap rate, NOI divided by the cap rate. That's basically your value of the
mhm.
multifamily. But what about business? How do you evaluate that?
So business valuations, I have my own framework that may be different with what people would learn elsewhere. Basically, the traditional way is what I just described. How much they make in net profit times whatever the business or whatever the market would value at as a multiple. Put that together and that's your evaluation. But how I value it right now is adding additional factors in terms of how I can value add to the business.
Ah,
And
value add.
and also how relatable I am with the business. And this actually all included in the framework that I have put together. Essentially, I believe every single person has a unique experience, unique connections, unique expertise. And when you look at all these things, these are your unfair advantage when you are looking for business to acquire. For example, if you just happen to have a friend who wanted to look into business acquisition and their family has been doing plumbing for years, for generations, that is his unfair advantage. He may already know how a plumbing business works. He may already know what is the challenge and where is the profit margin and what is the job that's profitable and all that. That is the unfair advantage. And therefore, when you look at a plumbing business with him, the business would then be very different to each of us, right? If you look at the
Right.
valuation, oh, this will worth like $2 million. But this friends with plumbing background, they look at it, maybe like, oh, they have a lot of clients, that is good. However, most of the job they're on is actually very low profit margin and high labor intensive and whatnot.
Right.
So those are kind of the thing I am putting together into a framework. Actually, recently we just roll out called ownership code masterclass, and I'm putting everything under 1 hour. So I go through that topic step by step, and so basically provide a framework for people to follow.
I see. I love how you said about the unfair advantage. That's really, a lot of time there's so many type of business out there, right? How do you decide which type of business to buy? It can't be something that you unfamiliar with, right? You kind of just, oh, the number looks good, I'm diving, right?
Yeah.
So then I know you are basically focused on home service related type of business buying, right? And you just recently acquired a laundromat in Boston, like prime real estate, and you acquired with 450K creative deal. Tell us more about that and why you decide to go into home service related business. And I
Yeah,
guess
sure.
that's your unfair advantage.
Yeah, sure. So we are actually looking at home service business to focus on in Boston area. Our goal and mission is to showcase how people can hire subcontractor differently. Something like Uber versus taxi. If you look at Uber when it just came out, people are still waving their hands, by the side of the road and try to get taxi. But now everything is on their fingertip and they can just easily book a car and whatnot. So that revolutionized how people hire a taxi or get a taxi. So we want to do the same thing for subcontracting. Remember last time you were making calls to landscaper, to plumber, electricians, how painful it was, how many calls you need to make.
Oh my God, yes. There's
Right.
so many, and then they don't show up on time. Have to
Exactly.
call around, and then they're on a different time clock, I think. Or they
Exactly.
maybe just service the people who pay them more first. And I'm
Yeah.
usually bargain with them.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. So it is still operating in probably 3, 4 decades ago, right? It's time for us to renew it. And the way that we're going to renew it is we're going to get rid of all these phone calls. We're going to establish a platform that allow people to scan a QR code, take a picture on whatever run in your house, upload it in 24, 48 hours. We'll be there and deal with it. With that new models in our minds, we go out and acquire the companies that we should put under our portfolio so we can well organized and well structured and make this new way of hiring subcontractor a reality, right?
So that's a great concept because you basically, if I understand correctly, that laundromat will give you a list of client. That's basically your starting database, right? And you're going to try to make their life easier, so whatever they need, set up systems and processes. Tell us more about the laundromat. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of additional revenue you can generate from the laundromat, and essentially kind of tie them into kind of like the subscription services, right? Is
Yes.
that the right?
Yeah, so laundromat is a business that a lot of people are asking about nowadays. The way that we acquired it was done like in very creative ways. This was a business that the seller was trying to sell for a long while, and there's actually 12 buyers try to make offer to her. She just didn't choose to move forward because she simply just don't think that they will perform, they know what to do and whatnot. Our approach is very different. I basically just go in and do my dirty laundry in that laundromat.
Right.
Really. And, and basically get into conversation when I was asked, why are you doing here? And you don't seems like a typical,
Laundromat
company
client.
or
Yeah.
client.
Right.
And I said that I'm not, but trying to learn the business because I'm interested in buying similar business like this. And that essentially positioned me in a way that, hey, I'm a learner. Yes, I'm a potential buyer, but I
Right. But
know
I want to learn the business before I buy. I think that's why
exactly,
you saw her.
and I'm trying to do some research. So right at that point, I start off with a very good impression with the seller. The seller and I didn't even talk about sales initially. We just talk about okay how it works and all that, and eventually that got into great relationship building. And I was able to find the bunny, basically the motivations of selling, and that also pain points and why the seller want to sell.
Hmm.
And right here, like a lot of people when they're looking at business, they are just trying to find out why people want to sell, but there's actually an additional thing that you should find out other than that, what make the seller not want to sell.
Correct. Oh my god, that's just wow. Because I think a lot of time people have hard time break through that initial level. They always want to look at the number, is it gonna make money? And why are they selling? But the why, the first why, what I learned after negotiating with so many sellers, the first why is never the true why. Is when you have to ask multiple why and drill down to a little bit. It could be very emotional, like an emotional kind of reason. It's not like you can pencil it out, so to speak.
Yes,
So have
exactly.
you find out why they wanted to sell?
Yes, turns out to be first you definitely want someone who is capable and will work very hard to make sure the business survive and even thrive. And the deep reasons of why was the owner has a son who has been living in the basement for a long while. He was in his 30s and he hasn't done a job. He hasn't done anything meaningful in his life yet because his mom owns a laundromat and he doesn't need to
He
work.
doesn't need to work really hard.
Yeah, right. So, essentially, just in a casual conversation, I was like, we were just kind of casually talking, and I was asking her, so it sounds like your biggest wishes is actually get your son out of the basement, and she
Right.
was like, you're absolutely right, and I said, well, I mean, if you can put a price tag on it, what would it be? She was like, oh, it would mean millions of dollars to me, and I was like, ding dong, that is the thing,
That's the bunny. Yep.
right? Because
If you can solve that problem.
yeah, so see, a laundromat isn't really worth a million,
Right.
right? But hey, the fact that she was stating that this was worth a million, it means that's a much bigger challenges that she's facing.
Correct.
So it turns out to be I was able to talk to her son in person, me in person, coach in person, and whatnot. The day we closed, he essentially went on his first job interview ever in his life. So the owner was like, "This is amazing." And since we have built such a strong relationship, she was even questioning it like, "I'm already seeing you like my son. What does it look like when you and I had a promissory note?" I don't
Oh,
have a promissory note with my
with my
son.
son.
So
Uh-huh.
she was like, "Hey, I'm tearing this apart."
Okay. Well, hold on. There's a lot of things that we have to dive into that. So how do we get to the promissory note? Because I know you bought it with 450K. Can you kind of run us down the purchasing term? And I'm sure promissory note is there somewhere.
Sure. And this is just a high level number because there are details that you probably don't
Of
like
course. Yeah.
head into. The high level number is 450,000. We were going to do like 200,000 seller financing note. The
Okay.
remaining basically we will bring in cash. And for the money that we will bring in cash, I basically open up to the community and see whoever
Yeah,
wants.
who wants in? Yes. Oh, I missed that boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I only saw the first post that you posted. Is like, oh, we just acquired this in Boston, and and I think Lily was on it, Colleen was on it, Leia was on it. Like it was like, "Ooh, they just secretly opened this to their. It's okay, maybe the next one."
Yeah.
So you open it up. So
Yeah.
basically, a whole bunch of your friend, right,
Yes,
fund it together.
and there's actually awesome story behind it. So let me get into it real quick. So I moved my family up to Boston because of big goal and missions that we want to accomplish, like revolutionize how people hire subcontractor. When we moved to Boston, I was like, okay, I know very little people here. How do I make friends? And I was thinking like, if I were someone who lived here for a long time and there's a
Mhm.
stranger just come to the area and want to know me, what would I feel? I figure the best way to make friends is to bring a best opportunity to them. And then I realized that there's actually a high demand of people who want to own laundromat because people are talking about it all day long,
Right.
but none of people taking any action.
So why laundry mat? Hold on just for a second, because I know a lot of business buying, but I was told that it was very easy to get in. There's not much to learn.
there are two business that I see to be very relatable to real estate investor. One is laundromat, the other one is car washes. Why?
Mm,
Because it has established building, established machine,
right.
established infrastructure that basically pay you just like rent, right?
And
If you
then,
have
right, the cash flow is also pretty stable, I would assume, once you
it,
establish the business.
it's somewhat stable compared to other
Right.
business type for sure.
I
And you
gotcha.
don't necessarily need to drive it hard. It will just perform. If you drive it hard, of course it will get better, but at some point, if you look at the stabilization, that is kind of the best. But
Right.
back to the story, the
Right.
people
Back to Houston, Boston. Yes.
Boston, yeah. And when so there's a ton of people in the community was interested in laundromat. So I basically just get on a call and say, hey guys, I am about to acquire the laundromat. And to be honest, back to that time, I was able to close on the deals myself. But I was just introduced, hey, this is what I do and all that. And I really want to make a lot of friends here. So if you ever have interest, let me know. I would be happy to open up the opportunities to own the laundromat together.
Right.
And there's actually a couple of people come in and say, hey Benjamin, let me put down like 100K, 200K, 500K. And I say, hey, we just met and I appreciate your trust and I love you. So but that's the first deal. Let's just keep it very small. All of my capital partners are like 1% owners with me. It turns out to be like close to like 30, 40 people reach out to have interest. We ended up only take on a very little amount of people because there are people more ready than the other, and we just want to make sure that whomever come in are in a comfortable spot that
Right.
they're okay to wait it out. Because in business, it takes time to stabilize. Even with laundromat, there's a lot of capex. Like you need to remodel the laundromat, you need to potentially get the new machines, modelize the place, right?
Right. So when
So
these people coming in to fund your deal, that do they just fund the initial acquisition portion, or they also you kind of project the expenses to reno and then
So my plan was, since I was able to acquire with my own capital, I was thinking that hey, whatever I have people join, and the remaining I'll just fund,
I
right?
see.
But it turns out I didn't need to fund anything because it just
Ready to go.
yeah, ready to go. So that's what happened. And with that deals, I was given a amazing opportunity to keep bugging people because I get to bug them because we're the co-owner of the business. I get to tell you every single bit about the business.
You have
And
excuses to fuck your business partner.
exactly. And the thing is, they enjoy listening because that's
Right.
also new to them. They're interested,
Right.
right? And with that, I make a lot of great friends. And with that said, I now can say that I get to do more of these with
With
friends.
friends, yeah.
Because
I
I mean,
love your approach because I'm also kinda Larry like that way, like, I think about a lot when I take people's money because I will feel I can sleep better if I just squander my money, but if I take my friend's money, I'll be like, "Oh my god, I need to make sure I do the right thing." So I love your approach because most people lend money to build a relationship, and you were basically letting people into your business to build a relationship. That's the first time I heard about that. It's pretty
yeah,
genius.
yeah, exactly. And also, I realized that when you really don't need the money to close on the deals, and that deals is so nice, so juicy, or so awesome, like people are just going to jump on. Like
Right.
you don't need
It's a
to,
deal. Yeah, you
yes,
don't need to. Yes, yeah.
right? And the fact that you're positioning yourself that hey, we're going to close the deal no matter what, that gives people confidence. Like
Right.
they don't really
They
like
know you're not desperate. You're basically screening your partner, so to speak. That's awesome.
exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So back to the deal structures. The deal structure is essentially 450, 200 was seller finance, 250 was cash from capital partners. So that was the deal. Basically to the end of the closing table because of the relationship that I built with the seller. The seller just didn't feel comfortable to say,
To
hey,
take your money.
exactly, to be like, hey, going to have a note, right?
Right. So she just basically ripped off that 200K promissory note.
Exactly. And
Damn.
and
I'm sorry.
everybody was shocked. I was shocked.
Did she
I was,
stay into the deal at all?
no.
Just no,
No,
not none of
she
the
retired. She's traveling around the world now. She hasn't been
Mhm.
able to do that for many decades, and she's doing it now, which is
Wow.
amazing.
See, there's no monthly payment back to her. it's done and you
Uh,
just manage it. What kind of upgrade, or because you mentioned about it's pretty much ready to go, right? And what have you done so far to, I assume, grow it? Like I assume some systems and processes.
Sure. So the first thing that when we walked into a laundromat, we realized that it's old fashioned or outdated. And so first we did a thorough cleaning.
Clean up.
And there's actually a lot more story behind the acquisition. But back to that time, I also own a cleaning company, and basically, I just have my cleaning company come in and just clean it. We were able to just clean out the laundromat, and we add a few things to modernize it. For example, like coin machine. I quickly realized that the previous owner spent about 40 to 50% counting a quarter
Oh my goodness.
to exchange a quarter for the customer to use the machine. So we quickly realized, oh, okay, that's a big time
Time sucks.
and
Yeah.
filler. We have the coin machine that just address it all. What happened next was we realized that hey, we always need to have staff there, and that is just not ideal. So essentially, we put in a POS system and allowing people to come in and actually operate it. Those kiosks like that's on the
Ah.
wall, they can just drop off, put it out, and check out, and we'll print out a receipt. People can take, and it'll be processed, and the time that's ready, they will come back and just pick it up. So we put that in, and we also put in an additional camera system. There were camera, but the camera were not functional for like years. We also replaced a new lock with a remote controllable keypad that would allow us to remotely close the store. Yeah.
So I guess the doors stay open during business hour and you just secure it at night.
Yeah, so we have two sides. One is laundromat, the other one is dry cleaning. The door just being locked at the nighttime. To be honest, we haven't get to a point that we can achieve no person like operating with the system processes that we're putting on. I think one day we'll get there.
Reduce your labor for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
exactly.
And I know you also do like additional services, right? Not just traditional laundromat. You also do like dry cleaning, right? That was pretty awesome. Talk
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Dry cleaning is something that we offer. We actually enables the doorstep pickup and drop off delivery. So we go to customer site and pick up
Make it
whatever they need
easy.
and come back to cleaning and then bring it right back. So that turns out to be very good income source. The shop did not have a online store. We put up a online store
Website.
within 30 days. We have achieved, I think it's like 400 people traffic every day to the website. So where they can place like online orders, delivering those kind of service requests. Right. But
Wow.
there are still things that need to be improved, optimized. Now me having a full team, which actually, helped tremendously because they can get into nitty-gritty details, improve things.
To find a better system and all that.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to ask you to share your website and I will put it in a link description below after this and when I post this podcast. So that sounds wonderful. It sounds like you have found the bunnies and you found the reason why they're selling, the true reason, not just the initial reason, and that somehow benefit you to acquire this with such a low money down market, and not to mention that 200K promissory note just got ripped off and
Yes.
50
Exactly.
cents there.
This is more surprising because this is the owner who said no to 12 buyers.
Right.
Like, can you
Right.
even imagine that whenever you see a tough business owner or potential seller act tough, that person likely would do surprising thing if you can find the bunny and actually structure the deals in a
Right.
way that person believe what their bunny is going to be addressed.
Right. And I like that you provide value before even talking about buying. You're just like, hey, how can I help your son? So that's a lot of people don't understand. They kind of focus on the numbers, but it's never about the number.
No.
We learned that. Yeah. So for our audience who just kind of starting with this journey, looking into business buying, where do they find these kind of good deal? And is there any tips and tricks you can share, like to kind of find out why the owner is actually selling? Let's
For
start with where to find these leads. I know you kind
yeah,
of just,
sure.
hey, I'm coming to do my dirty
Yeah.
laundry.
Yeah.
Um,
Lead generation, there's actually 12 different way to generate lead. I actually have broken down that in my creative business acquisition Q&A, and I actually dive into it in details. If I just throw a few quick ones,
sure. Just a
when
few quick one.
you just get into business acquisitions, you should be worrying about how you can evaluate the business. So I should start with something like called Biz by Sales online. You can just go there and request a bunch of financials, and that is how I practice my underwriting.
Underwriting.
Yes, because that's easy. You can just request and
Right.
sign an NDA. People will send you the financial and all that. You just gain access to the financial and underwrite. you will quickly find that very little good deals are on market.
Right.
A lot of
It's kind of
great
loop
deals.
net for real estate.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly,
But it's
exactly.
good for practice. Yeah,
Yes,
practice
exactly.
number. Yeah.
So I would say that's step one. If you're going to practice, that is where you can get a deal. If you're seriously looking into potentially good deals or better deals to buy, a lot of them are not listed. I would encourage everybody to follow me on Instagram at Benjamin Huang 14. I put out a daily short clip to talk about those things. Like, hey, if you try this lead generation, you're looking at the deals and that is not a good deal. What do you do? Right?
Right.
So these kind of, I call it micro learning, is the resource I want to provide to your audience as well. Go to my Instagram and there's like reels
Right.
that goes.
Join your Q&A so they can, or if they found a deal, they just say, this sounds good, but I don't know what to do. I'll jump on your call and partner with you.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. And if you have a deal that you want my opinion to look at it, just be free to jump on my Q&A. I'll provide that link to Xingyi as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for giving, like, spill all the beans and share the journey, like how you come so far. I remember I saw you the first time, the first year. You've grown so much since last time I saw you. I'm really, really proud of you. And what's the next for you? What's the next 5 years, 10 years business plan for you?
Yeah, so our goal is by end of 2025, we're going to hit 3.5 million, revenue across our business portfolio, and we are on track to double that, to be honest, which is amazing. And
Mhm.
in 3 years, our goal is to hit 50 million mark, and that's when we're going to IPO the company, and that's when we're going nationwide.
Nice.
So the next 3 to 5 years is going to be the key to my business. I want to make sure that this is not just a business that I'm building, but also a group of friends.
Friends you're having
um,
fun with.
Exactly. Because if we're going to IPO a company, that essentially means that we will have opportunity to stand in the New York Stock Exchange to ring the bell.
Right.
And how awesome it would be to have you to stand by my side to ring it together. How cool would that be? So, like, really, my goal is, hey, let's do something cool, revolutionize how people hire a subcontractor, and then let's get on a cool place together and ring the cool bell.
Right. That's pretty awesome. I definitely gonna join you on the next lobster fishing trip and come to
Awesome.
Boston and see you. So there you go. This is my friend Benjamin Huang. Please follow him on Instagram. I'm gonna put the link below. And if you have time, you want to learn more about business buying, definitely join him on the weekly business buying Q&A. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you so much.